Hello and welcome to another edition of Coffee Break. My name is Steve Barrett. I'm the editorial director at PR Week. Delighted to bring you another show with one of our women to watch for 2022. Very honoured to have Leela Stake on the show, who's global head of FH4Inclusion and global co-lead at Mosaic, which is all part of Fleishman-Hillard. So Leela, welcome to the show. Great to have you here.
Thank you, Steve. It's so great to be here and very honored to be in an amazing class of women to watch. So thank you for that.
Yeah, it is an amazing class. So well done on that. And we really love to celebrate that every year because we know how many amazing women are in the industry, and both the leaders and the next generation of leaders. So it's really good to talk to you. Let's start by talking about FH4Inclusion and Mosaic. Tell us a bit about that, what it is within Fleishman-Hillard and how they work together, those two units.
Absolutely. Well, it has really been an honor to be part of both of these initiatives. FH4Inclusion is our global pro bono and volunteer initiative. It was launched around our 70th anniversary. We recently had our 75th anniversary at Fleishman-Hillard, and it was really a commitment to lean into inclusion through giving with our heads and our hearts to organizations who very much deserve our support and our services but can't afford them. And it has been an amazing platform to do a ton of impactful work over the past 5+ years now. And Mosaic is our global diversity, equity, and inclusion client practice. And we've had the amazing opportunity to work with more than 100 clients on diversity, equity, and inclusion issues over the past few years. It's been a through line in my career for more than 2 decades now. And it's just been amazing to help grow our team to more than 160 counselors around the world with diverse lived experience.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah. So it's all client work. It's just some of it's pro bono and some of it's paid for work, but it's all on the client work side, which is good to see.
That's exactly right, Steve. And it's really important to us when we take on a pro bono or volunteer client, we're treating them like any other client, right? So we take that responsibility really seriously in terms of developing a scope of work that we both agree to and making sure we're really fulfilling on those responsibilities in the way that we would with any impeccable client service that we want to deliver.
Yeah, and we'll dig into some of that work in a minute. But just first of all, just tell us, you're in the Bay Area. Tell us where the people are spread around the US and the world.
Yeah, so part of the amazing thing and why it's called Mosaic is it's really intended to be reflective of the varied, vibrant world that we live in. That means that we can take advantage of being a large agency with many different, a different presence in many different parts of the world. And so we want to make sure we're bringing people together that not only have varied professional expertise, but also diverse lived experience. And we define that quite broadly. So certainly in terms of race and ethnicity and country of origin, but also things like sexual orientation, gender identity, and people with disability. So those are just some of the facets we consider. And I think our clients are really looking for that, to be able to tap experts who really have lived different lives in different places and bring that experience to bear in the work that we do with them.
Yeah, it's important that what you said there, it's not just, although diversity, ethnic and sexual diversity is obviously very important, but there are other elements of diversity as well. We're talking in Diversity Month, National Diversity Month, and I know you're about diversity year round, but tell us about Diversity Month and why that is important and how you can shine a light on some of the issues.
Yeah, it's a really good point. I mean, I think, in some sense, we try to get our clients to move away from just thinking about sort of months or days of recognition, but they exist for a reason, which is to focus the conversation on some of the topics that matter. I mean, we obviously saw a huge spike in interest and activity related to diversity, equity, and inclusion in the wake of George Floyd's murder nearly 2 years ago now. And, the conversation reached a fever pitch. We saw all kinds of commitments from different companies and organizations. And here we are 2 years later. And I think the opportunity we have now is to make sure we keep that momentum going. We don't want to lose ground. We want to make sure that those commitments that were made 2 years ago come to fruition, and that we build on really making a more diverse, equitable, and just and inclusive society.
Yeah, so let's dig into that a bit, because you're right. People are a bit skeptical about it, aren't they? They think, yeah, well, companies made these statements, or they went dark on social, but how do you ensure that the clients you're working with really double down and get things done and make change, rather than just making statements that some people might think, well, they never really followed up on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it gets back to me on a very personal note of like how I got into this work in the first place. So I come at it very much from a lens of shouldn't communicate about it if you don't have something real to communicate about. And so I feel like we are sometimes just as much strategic counselors to our clients and helping to advise and make sure the strength of programs are real, in addition to, of course, making sure that the communications around those programs are really effective. And I think that those pieces of the puzzle fit together so beautifully, because you could also have the best programs in the world, but if no one knows about them, your employees don't know about them, or your external stakeholders don't know, you're not really getting the full value out of them. So that's really the lens that I bring to my work, is often helping clients on their journey of either where to start, because some are relatively new to this work, but as long as they're committed, we're willing to work with them, but also with clients that are further along their journeys to really think about what does it mean to fully live into the commitments that they've made.
So talk us through some of the work you're most proud of, where you think, yeah, this is what it's all about. This is where we really made a difference and produced change.
Yeah, I mean, there are so many partnerships. We've now, over the course of FH4Inclusion, worked with more than 130 nonprofit partners around the world. So it is hard to choose, but a couple of examples. One, we're part of the We the 15 campaign that was focused on the 15% of people in the world that live with disability, and trying to raise awareness for that. Again, a forgotten aspect for many under the diversity, equity, and inclusion umbrella, but a very important one in terms of the number of people who are impacted. And an amazing multi-office team from London to Australia, Canada, so many different corners of the world, to really raise visibility around the need to focus on people who are part of this often marginalized group. So the FH team was involved in things like purple is actually the color that's associated with disability. So helping to light up landmarks around the world, including the London Eye and others, in the color purple, in order of recognition here, and really bringing a coalition of stakeholders together to make an impact. One of the things that was highly visible and really reached around the world on, I think, a very, very important topic. So that's one thing that I'm proud of. Another thing is, we also are really, and then this is more of a personal one, think a lot about board service. So, we are all leaders out there in the community, and what are the organizations that we're going to give to that we get to have a huge impact on. So I've been really honored personally to be part of Stanford University's Haas Center for Public Service, their national advisory board, and really helping to advance that work and do it with a lens of diversity, equity, and inclusion has been personally really important to me.
Tell us a bit about the work you did with the African American Policy Forum, because that sounded very interesting.
Yes, it is. So Kimberly Crenshaw is part of that organization, and the team was involved in something called the Say Her Name campaign, which is really about raising awareness of Black female victims of violence who are often forgotten. And the team was able to do so much amazing work, including a partnership with the WNBA, helping, I think, with a new song release with an amazing artist, Janelle Monáe, so many different things. And actually part of what I'm so excited about that work and some of the partnerships we've been able to forge during the pandemic, I think you would think, well, with the pandemic, did all of your pro bono and volunteer efforts stop because people weren't in person, all those things? In fact, we found the contrary. We found an amazing opportunity, I think, with more of these kind of forums like we're having today of connecting, remotely, to be able to facilitate real collaboration across offices. So that was an amazing example where there were teams from colleagues from South Africa to San Francisco who were involved in advancing that work in a way that I think was really meaningful. And we also hosted an hour of service that even for people who weren't on the core team, that were able to participate and help give strategic counsel by gathering across so many different offices. I think we had about 100 participants from offices all throughout our network to help give back together. And I think there was a lot of power in that, and a model we'll take forward even as we start doing more in-person service as we move to this next phase.
Yeah, there's some really terrific work going on, and it's great to hear about it. There is also a sort of, it's a very divided country, isn't it? And we see things happening like Don't Say Gay in Florida, and we have attacks on women's health rights in Texas, and we have some very febrile discussions, that are taking place on social and in person. How do you help your clients play in areas like that where they can, where you've got a whole country and a very divided population, and what is inclusive to one part of the population might be different to the other? How do you sort of navigate that on behalf of your clients?
I think that we get back to what is really human in all of this. I mean, at the end of the day, this is about human beings and making sure that people feel a sense of belonging where they are. And we try to move, I think, away from the kind of polarization and politicization that has taken over so much of this to get to the real human aspects of this, where I think there's actually tremendous common ground. And I think that's been kind of the amazing part of being part of an agency that, we have our roots and headquarters in St. Louis. And I think we have colleagues, across all different parts of the US. I mean, I happen to be part of the San Francisco office and on the West Coast, but we also have colleagues all throughout the US, and then of course globally too, that are coming from different vantage points. But I really have been amazed to see how much shared understanding we've been able to find together. And I think that serves us well in our work with clients that are located in all different parts of the country and world.
And as we kind of approach the second anniversary of the murder of George Floyd, how do you think we are as a country? Do you think business has genuinely changed? It feels like there were some measures put in place that were like, yeah, we have to do something now. This is just a step too far, and it felt like real change had been made. Not that everything has been done and achieved that needs to be achieved, but where do you think we are at 2 years on?
Yeah, I mean, I think both things can be true. In some ways, I feel like we've just scratched the surface because there's so much more work that needs to be done. However, I do feel like we've made real progress. And I think probably if I have a superpower, it's probably eternal optimism. And I think that's been really important in this work. Otherwise, it's kind of hard to keep going with it. But I genuinely believe, like, if Fleischmann-Hillert's any indication, I show up to calls now and I do really feel like I see a true mosaic. And that's the beauty of leading this practice. Like, we've really been able to cultivate a collection of counselors that are reflective of the world we live in. And I had aspects of that earlier in my career, but that part does feel really different. And I think if we can do it, I think we're seeing that reflected in many other places. And with our clients and beyond as well. So I do think there's been genuine progress and accountability. And I also think that, as you said, there's much more work to be done. And the real challenge to all of us is to make sure we don't lose momentum as we hit this kind of 2-year mark. And as we move forward from here, we need to make sure that people have a relentless commitment to progress as we move forward.
Yeah, I agree, and I think we need a bit of eternal optimism for sure. You're right. We need that relentlessness, and we need diversity champions like yourself, and that's why you're a woman to watch, a PR Week woman to watch. So congratulations again. Great to find out more about your work on Coffee Break, and yeah, look forward to seeing how you progress with FH4Inclusion.
Thank you so much, Steve. It was really a pleasure.